and she's like waiting to, she's in her dress, she's like waiting to go outside to walk down the aisle, and her face is just burning.
Can you imagine walking down the aisle on your wedding day and not being able to wear makeup? Your face is red and peeling off. Well, if you get a chemical peel the day before, that's what can happen. And Kennedy, otherwise known as Gown Eye Girl, is a bridal stylist here in Los Angeles, California. And you actually had this happen to one of your clients.
I did. I had a bride who 2 days before her wedding, she went and she got a chemical peel because she had heard that it was great and her friends had gotten them before, but she didn't realize that there was a lot of downtime after a chemical peel that's needed, and that you cannot wear makeup after a chemical peel for quite a few days. And so she had to walk down the aisle, red, patchy, very, very irritated, and it was not the wedding that she wanted to remember.
Oh my gosh. And this is why when it comes to skincare and makeup choices, there are things that you should do the day before, but there are actually a lot of things that you should do months, if not 6 months in advance. So whether you have a winter wedding or you're planning on a spring or summer one, it's best to get started early, just the way you would with bridal styling or with wedding planning. So we're gonna talk about all of that. Kennedy, so tell us a little bit more about how you got into bridal styling and some of the common concerns that people have or mistakes they make with their skincare.
Yeah, so I have been in bridal styling almost for 5 years now, and I started out in a small little boutique like most bridal stylists do, just helping brides on the floor, and now I do much more one-on-one things, and that's really nice because I do get to talk with them much more about things like skincare and prep and things like that. But the main thing that a lot of brides need to understand is making sure that their skincare is prepped in a way that they are ready for everything that's happening on the wedding day. So that can be things like making sure that they aren't using products that are going to break them out. They're not using new products too soon to the wedding day. They're giving their skin downtime so that in between treatments and things like that, so they can understand where their skin is actually going to be on the wedding day. And then a lot of other things like breaking out because of clothing that they're not used to wearing, and stress
Yes.
and things like that.
When it comes to preparing your skin for any big event, you want to avoid trying anything new like days or weeks before. Consistency really is key, because when you think about our skin, it wants to keep us safe and healthy, right? It keeps us in what's called homeostasis, basically a happy state of being. And our skin, as our body's largest organ, works to keep us, the good stuff, in and pathogens and bacteria out. So if we're trying a new chemical peel or even a new retinoid a day or two before, our skin can react to that. And unfortunately, it can cause more problems long-term than in the long run. And if you've ever seen retinization, that's a huge thing. So let's say that someone is planning a wedding. When should they start speaking to a stylist? When should they start finding a venue?
No less than 8 months before your wedding day.
So when it comes to that timeline of 8 months to a year as you're finding your stylist and you're finding your venue, this is also when you want to look at any major procedures. For example, if you want to do medical microneedling, if you're looking at doing something like laser, it does take time for the skin to heal. And you probably know there's like a downtime of 4 to 6 weeks, sometimes 8, sometimes 12. But to actually get the full results, remember, we're damaging the skin in order for it to heal. So if you are going to do laser or microneedling, do it about a year out. That way you can see what your skin does. It gives it a full chance to heal. And if something goes wrong, like keloid scarring or like major irritation, it gives your skin enough time to heal. So those major dermatology things outside of like Botox or injections, that 1 year to 8 month mark is when you really want to focus on that so that your skin has time to adjust.
I was gonna ask if you consider Botox skincare.
In a way. I mean, it's an aesthetic treatment. It's more on the medical side, but yeah, I would. And also, Botox is very interesting because of the way it works. It paralyzes muscles in the skin. So depending on if you want to have emotions on your wedding day, you may actually want to do Botox earlier and not touch it up, because Botox is like preventing wrinkles from happening. Whereas if you do Botox, a couple weeks before your wedding, you might not be able to emote the way you want to.
Your husband's not gonna know you still love him.
Right? Exactly. What's up, girl? What's going on? No emotion. So after that 8 month period, then what's the next step when planning a wedding?
The next step would be getting absolutely everything else together. So we're talking DJ, we're talking your bridesmaid's dresses, you're talking your groomsmen's dresses, your groom's suit, your partner's suit, pretty much all of the little details leading up, but most of the big stuff gets done actually about a year out from your wedding, which is the venue, the dress. A lot of times the venue will also include the food, the decor, and things like that. And so the last 3 to 4 months is all just like personal care, making sure that you aesthetically are going to look the way that you want to on your wedding day.
Makes sense. So would you say that's like 6 months or 4 months? What does that kind of look like?
Around like 4 months, I would say. Everything 6 months is like stationery, invites, things like that.
Okay.
And then all of the skincare stuff, at least on my side, because I'm a stylist, I usually tell them to start thinking about it 4 months out.
4 months out. I would say, depending on how intense your skincare routine is, that 4 to 6 month mark is really, really good, because as you know, we want to switch out our variables one at a time. If we have a 4-step skincare routine that contains a cleanser and a sunscreen and like a retinoid, but we're switching that retinoid out for something even more potent, we want to do that separately from switching out a serum or a moisturizer. So if we see a change in our skin, we know which product and which step led to that change. And especially with retinoids, you can get retinization. Sometimes you have to titrate up, meaning starting once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week, and kind of graduating. And that, of course, takes weeks, if not months of time. So I would say between 4 and 6 months, if you have an advanced skincare routine already, 4 months is totally fine. But if you've never used a retinoid before, or if you've never used a chemical exfoliant or like a vitamin C, definitely start 6 months so you can start adding those things in and seeing that brightness over time. So when you're doing your stationery, when you're testing the food, when you're listening and creating those playlists for the DJ. What does it look like a couple weeks out from the wedding? What happens in both the styling and the planning world?
In the planning world, you should be pretty much set to go 2 weeks before. The only thing that's really changing is you're finalizing your guest list and your seating chart. That's pretty much, you're giving like your final tally to the venue so that they know exactly who's coming. And then skincare wise, it's all about things like getting your eyebrows waxed for the last time, getting your hair cut for the last time, making sure that's like the last point that you're doing any sort of like major self tanners, major like any sort of treatments, anything like that. It's sort of like after 2 weeks, stop, we're done.
Exactly. Kennedy, that makes complete sense. When it comes to your skincare as well, you want to have it perfected at this time. You want to make sure that you have a regular routine with your retinoid, with any exfoliating acids. You know what sunscreen works well for your skin. And if you are going to switch out your sunscreen, for example, if you normally use a mineral one that flashes back in photos and you're moving to an organic or chemical one that doesn't flash back, you want to do that 2 to 3 weeks before to make sure that it wears well under your makeup. When it comes to your makeup, you also want to make sure that you're testing out and trying your makeup at the same time that you're getting your brows waxed and your hair done or your nails done. You actually have a story about something that has happened when somebody tried new makeup a day before their wedding day. What happened?
So a lot of brides come to me and they say, you know, I've never worn makeup for my wedding day, but obviously on my wedding day, I'm going to wear makeup. And this is why trials are so important. You should never ever hire a makeup artist without a trial. Reason being is this bride, she actually wanted to save a little bit of money. So she said, you know, I'm just gonna have the makeup artist come day of, and started doing her makeup. The bride, she's barefaced most days, and she just starts feeling like this burning sensation, and she didn't say anything because she's never worn makeup. She thought this was normal.
Oh my gosh.
So she lets, I know, she lets the makeup artist like do a full face, and she's like waiting to, she's in her dress, she's like waiting to go outside to walk down the aisle, and her face is just burning. So she like freaks out, goes to the bathroom, washes it all off, and she just is like hives, covered in hives, and not even like her face like down to her neck. Like she just full like didn't realize that she was allergic to something that was in the makeup, and because she didn't stop when it was burning, she had no idea which makeup product actually like made her break out.
Did the makeup artist not see that like she was getting hives or like
I have
like redness in the skin?
idea. Honestly, like some people get so stressed out. I think a lot of makeup artists are like, if the bride isn't saying anything, it's probably like for me, when I get nervous, my chest gets really red. So sometimes makeup artists are like, oh, she's just stressed.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
No. Did she walk down barefaced or what happened?
I think that she actually like, oh yeah, she walked down barefaced, but what happened was she washed it all off her face. Her bridesmaids like took everything out of the mini bar and was just like pushing it against her face to try and like cold compress it down. And then she just like put a little mascara on and walked down the aisle barefaced, which like
smart,
if you
though.
want
Cool
to
compress for hives.
do the bare face, like that works too.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that poor, oh my gosh. I I feel the pain as someone who sometimes gets hives and things. I hope she had a good day otherwise, and I'm glad that you and her bridesmaids were there for her.
We definitely use her as a cautionary tale, and she knows that we do.
Yes. So when it comes to those last minute changes, again, anything that you could possibly be allergic to, anything like that you want to avoid, and this goes for foods as well. If you are, trying new foods or taste testing, make sure that you're doing that months in advance. And the day of, you're not going to eat shellfish if you've never had shellfish before and all of a sudden your throat is closing up. So a good year out is when you want to do laser treatments, microneedling, and anything intense. And then a good 6 to 4 months out is when you really want to start switching up your routine. When it comes to specifics like Botox and chemical peels, those can be a little bit variable. Again, if you get Botox regularly, continue to do so. And if you want that look for your wedding day, make sure that you're touching up, a couple weeks before. But if you really do want to emote, you want to have facial expression, skip that last Botox treatment. It's not going to make a major difference when it comes to wrinkles as long as you're wearing your sunscreen, and it will allow you to emote in certain photos, which I don't know if a lot of brides who are getting those aesthetic treatments think of. When it comes to chemical peels as well, I like to recommend 4 to 6 months out, just to make sure that you're not having any of that major irritation. And of course, that chemical peel is going to go along with whatever you're doing for your skincare routine. Retinoids as well, any retinoids and exfoliants you really want to start early, whereas for things like vitamin C or switching up your sunscreen or moisturizer, you could do a month or 2 before. And definitely during that 2-week mark, making sure that your sunscreen is great, making sure that it layers well under your makeup, and making sure that your makeup isn't contradicting or, mixing with any of your skincare in the wrong way. And the day of should not necessarily be the big finale of all the skincare stuff, trying and testing for the first time. It should really be this kind of steady, gradual slope. There's no end point. It's like, oh, we've been ramping up to this for a while and we're just continuing on that steady path. And that way there's no big changes at the very end. Just the way once you've walked down the aisle, you've done it a couple times, the last time you're doing it, it's not majorly different other than the nerves. It's like, okay, we've done this before, we know it's happening.
Exactly.
We're good to go. Kennedy, if people want to find out more about Gown-Eyed Girl and see the amazing styling that you do on Instagram as well as YouTube, where can people find you?
You can find me at Gown-Eyed Girl on TikTok, Pinterest, Instagram, YouTube, basically tried to make it really easy for you.
And for anybody who has questions, I've tried to make sure that the comments are open. Please feel free to share your wedding horror stories when it comes to skincare or beauty, or the other things that you wish another bride or another non-binary person or someone else who is tying the knot would have known. Overall, remember to be beautiful inside and out, and Kennedy and I will see you on the internet. Bye guys!